It's the top 10 games of this, the year of Luigi, by Joe and Matthew.
Hello, and welcome to the not quite the official Nintendo Magazine podcast, but a special one-off end of the year, Games of the Year edition. This is a bit of an experimental something that we're putting together.
The experiment being me and you in a room with no one else to keep a track on.
Yeah, basically, yes. So in case you hadn't guessed it, this is Matthew Castle here, associate editor on Official Nintendo Magazine, and I'm joined by staff writer Joe Scrabbles.
Hello.
If it sounds slightly funny today, it's because I've got a bit of a cold, so I've got a slightly croaky, some would say sexy, voice.
Would they?
Yeah,
I'm not turned on. Is it? I would be
well,
interested
it's not for
to get
you, is it?
Who's it for?
Well, you know.
And are you implying you got the cold on purpose? Do you have little vials at home and little petri dishes?
Some people have said in the past, when you have a croaky voice, some people are like, you know, because normally my voice is like the least sexiest thing in the world. But when it's slightly croaky, it's more like, like, I can't think of anyone who's got a cool voice.
That's because you don't sound like any of them. You're not Red Pepper, mate.
Well,
go on, do a trailer. Pretend you're doing a trailer for
in
something.
In a world.
Is that it? That's the whole trailer?
Yeah, that's what they say, isn't it?
Interesting.
Anyway, to what we're here for. We're doing a Game of the Year top 10 list. We're just sort of debating the right format to do this in, and we've decided to rip off format which is no longer in use, which the Guardian film show used to do their top 10 films in the year, and basically their two critics would come up with a list of 10, which we have done, and then they would work up from 10 to 1, each revealing what was on their list. So I don't know Joe's doesn't know mine. The only catch being that if we have a game which is duplicated, we won't talk about it until we get it to the higher placing in the list.
Wasn't this originally Siskel and Ebert?
I don't know. I've heard it. They used to do it on the Guardian one, and I really liked it. And I think it's quite a good format because then you can go like, my number 4 is this, and everyone's like, whoa.
I think actually good games podcast Chet and John's reassuringly finite gaming playlist also does this format. So we're ripping off from everywhere today.
Listen, but there you go. You know, we could just say we came up with it ourselves. We haven't.
Cards on the table. This is how honest these games of the year. We should point out this is going to be very personal. This is not a constructed ONM list. These are our two lists.
So you may notice that there's some crazy things where games which scored lower are higher in lists and things. That's just the way it works. This is personal choice. But we'll hopefully justify some of our picks along the way. I'm quite looking forward to seeing what Joe's cooked up because he's quite a weirdo. So should we start? Joe, do you want to start with your number 10?
Yes, I'll start with number 10. And is that what we're doing every time now? Right, you know what? That actually was quite sexy. So well done. You've changed my opinion. I'm going to start. Well, it's kind of weird.
I hope this is one that I haven't got higher up because then we'll delay.
That'll be quite bad. This is going to be a bit of a down note for me. It's Animal Crossing New Leaf in at number 10.
Interesting.
Because it's the highest score ONM has given, and me by association has given all year. But I'm so bored of it by now. I've played it for so long. And I think it can wear out its welcome. That said, the first 20 hours, which is more than you could say for most games, the first 20 hours of Animal Crossing are some of the most magical moments when you're finding things. It's that rush of like things happening around you that you don't quite have control over, and it's kind of scrabbling to get control of things is what I think Animal Crossing does best.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I must admit,
not on your list.
It's not on my list at all.
I was gonna say.
For a very sort of similar reason, I have this sort of... there's like an Animal Crossing cycle that I go through every time, where I start off and I'm really gonna do Animal Crossing this time, but then this is the one which held my attention for longer.
Well, that's because you were tarmacking your place.
Yeah, I was tarmacking the whole place. That's the thing. Once I tarmacked the cool town, it was just so depressing.
It is a goal-setting exercise, isn't it? It's a kind of it's getting the willpower to go, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. But then when it's done, it's sort of done, isn't it?
Yeah, but then I know people who play it sort of every day, and it's actually. I'm kind of jealous that someone can get so lost in that world and still be satisfied working towards those new goals, whether it's, I've collected all this furniture and now I want this whole new look and I'm going to collect all this furniture. And it is a game which, with its seasonal events and stuff, rewards kind of dedication throughout the year. Like Christmas in Animal Crossing is going to be really awesome and I will log in on Christmas Day, but I won't feel like I've earned it because I haven't played it for
Not to
quite a
mention
few
everyone
weeks.
will be really angry with you.
Yeah,
when
well,
you
the whole
do.
place will be just a wasteland with all the tarmac.
Just a single duck going. "Oh, you
There's just no
bastard."
nature in my town anymore.
No, you've killed it.
Yeah, it was really stupid. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really funny for the magazine to do that. But now I go in there and it's just like, it's like Fallout or something.
It did make a. That was the Fallout 4 announcement. Your Animal Crossing
Yeah, my
Cool
Animal
Town.
Crossing town.
Fallout Cool Town. Yeah, it's Yeah, I think it deserves its place in the games of the year, but it has been it's an odd game. So what's your number 10?
My number 10, again, slightly mixing things up. It's Star Wars Pinball,
Oh, you and Star Wars Pinball.
specifically the Empire Strikes Back table.
Yep, fair enough.
Which, listen, Star Wars Pinball, it's no like crazy masterpiece, but what it does really, really well in that the tables, particularly the Empire Strikes Back table, really inventive. The instructions are really clear with how you're meant to do it and the kind of progression through it, which I really like. And there's loads of different angles of attack. It makes great noises when you react to it, which sounds dumb, but that's kind of what
That is
pinball's
pinball.
about. I really like the sound effects. I just get lost in it. Like this, it's the game this year, probably more than any other. When I'm bored, I'll boot it up for a little go, and I'll lose probably a couple of hours to it sometimes.
That
you know.
said, is it better than the Space Cadet table from Windows XP?
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't
god,
think
the
it
music
is.
in that. Do you remember
exactly. Ding 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 ding. That
Yeah.
is the that's better.
that?
That's the problem with Star
it's
Wars
better than
pinball.
that because
Is it?
Yeah.
Because of Darth Vader throwing the ball.
Well, no, there's a bit where Darth Vader, if you light up Vader, he pops out the table, and then you have to fire balls over this ramp, and then if you fire them near him, he'll kind of force crush them, and
I
you'll
like-
get a load of points per ball.
I do like that bit. Empire Strikes Back is definitely the table.
Yeah,
That's
the other
one you
ones,
want.
the other ones I've probably played about 20 minutes each, but Empire Strikes Back table is properly good. And I just like the high score game. You know, it does a very good thing with the online where it says, you know, your friends have got this score, you're this close. You know, it updates you live, kind of updates as to how you're doing. But
It
because
hasn't- sorry.
no one else is playing it, I've dominate my own leaderboard now. So I've got because no friends who play that game.
No. It has inspired the most insufferable Miiverse community as well, where it's literally just people going, number one again.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, shut up, mate.
Yeah, maybe I'm just pleased because I had a Miiverse post that did quite well there.
Oh, yeah, you did. Because you beat mine.
I think it was something. It was along the lines of it was the hate leads to the fear leads to whatever.
Yeah.
But then it ended with leads to multi-ball, which it doesn't even say.
No.
So I think I was thinking of multi-kill from
You were from Halo, is that it? No.
multi-kill. No.
Or was that Unreal Tournament, maybe?
Yeah, maybe I don't know. But either way, Star Wars Pinball, really good.
Nice number 10.
So Joe, what is your number 9?
Number 9 is Spin the Bottle.
Well, that's
by-
not in my list.
Yeah, because you don't like physical touching.
Yeah.
Napnock, who I believe are Danish, and they worked with a Swedish studio to make Spin the Bottle, have created the best party game ever made, I think.
That's a bold claim.
Because it's an actual game for parties. But there's this weird assumption that a party game is a thing where you get all your friends to sit down and look at a TV for a while. I've
Yeah.
never been to a party where that's the thing.
You haven't come to my parties.
That's true. The closest I've ever come is like a karaoke game like Lips or something ridiculous. Lips still being the most disgusting name for a karaoke game.
Lips. What about
Yeah.
Sing?
Yeah, I preferred Lips because I played it. And
Which was the rap one?
That was Def Jam Rap Star. I never
yeah.
played that one. I'm not a good rapper. You might be surprised considering my accent and the fact that I'm from South Central. But yeah, no, Spin the Bottle. Let's get back to Spin the Bottle.
Yeah.
Spin the Bottle encourages you not to look at the TV. It encourages you to like just probably harass people in the room with you, which is the best party. And it's got brilliant games like. And game names. There's something really fun about a little thing spinning around on the gamepad and then everyone going, what the hell is Pass the Badger?
Yeah.
As we had fun with on this podcast. It just gets you to use the you know, everything at your disposal in really inventive ways, whether that's with people or by yourself. Like creating a platform game where where you're doing the jumping but you can't see the platforms is just... No one else has been that inventive with the Wii U.
It won some awards this year, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it won.
The independent game.
Yes, it won a
thing.
technology award. I can't remember which one. I apologise. And it deserves it. It totally deserves it.
Yeah,
And I
it's
can't
funny
wait.
because it's almost like quite an aggressive reaction to. Well, like when you gave it, I remember when you gave this a really good score in the magazine. there was quite an aggressive reaction with like readers scoffing, like, "Oh, ridiculous! You know, this is what we use about. This is nonsense. You know, how can it be?"
And it absolutely is. Like this does everything Nintendo were touting the Wii U to do that no one else has been brave enough to try. And they've just nailed their colours to the mast and gone, here's the game. And when you're playing things like, I think it's called Hide the Rabbit, where you've got Wii remotes, you're hiding them around your house, and then they're all giggling and vibrating and stuff, and people are having to comb the house for it. There's nothing else
Sounds like hide and seek.
It is hide
In
and
that
seek.
I giggle and vibrate when I'm hiding.
You just turn into like some dude from The Fury.
Yeah,
Just-
people can know where I'm hiding because you can just see sort of things around me vibrating, like doorknobs.
Supernatural force.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Spin the Bottle's amazing. I get really like het up about it because I'm like, it is good.
You love
No
it.
one
You are like
understands.
Mr. Spin the Bottle on
Yeah.
the team. I must admit, I
incredible.
tried playing it with my family, and we didn't like 100%. I don't know. It didn't really kind of click
It's
with
not
us.
a family game.
No, I
It's
think
very
that was
much
it.
a friend's game. Like the first time I reviewed it, I was with one friend and we had so much fun. Like it was just me and a dude and some beers spinning each other around a room. Then it was wonderful.
That does sound rad.
What a game.
Huh.
Number 9 for you?
My number 9 is it's another eShop game. It's the rather lovely Toki Tori 2.
Toki Tori 2.
Yeah, or if you want to call it, you can call it Toki Tori 2 Plus.
It is now. I thought it was going to be high up your list. You loved that game.
I do love it, but there's been a lot of other good stuff. The thing about Toki Tori 2 is that no one's played it because they look at the screens of it and they see a stupid yellow bird thing.
It does look awful.
It does kind of look.
Like I know it's great. I've seen it.
It does look really simple, and I'll admit, like I think for me, this is one of the obviously games reviewers shouldn't be judging books by their cover, but you always have an impression of something when you start playing it, like immediately. Like you kind of think you can kind of call a game within like half an hour. You get a feel for something. And this, I remember thinking, God, what is this? Like it's such a state. I mean, this stupid bird, and it doesn't explain itself at all, and its interaction. You've got a bird that can whistle and stomp, and that's it. And you're like, what on earth is this thing going to be? And as I was playing it, you have to kind of eke out all its systems and learn all its rules, and then they merge sort of naturally. It's this really organic puzzler, and it just completely won me over. I was like, it was such a pleasant surprise that I thought this thing, which I'd kind of written off as being like some middling kind of eShop ware, and actually it's brilliant. Like the puzzles are amazing, and they're so like they're like Zelda puzzles, where it kind of gives you all the pieces. And you kind of know how everything acts together, and you have to try and make them all kind of click together in a way that benefits you. You have to kind of think. It's very lateral kind of thinking, and its puzzles. I know it's a bit of a bold claim, but I genuinely think its puzzles are better than Zelda puzzles in the last few Zelda games I've played. Like I think they're genuinely brilliant. I think they're just behind this level of kind of cutesy visuals, and people look at it and go, it's all about sort of forcing animal behavior to help you, and that may sound odd, but it has those same Zelda eureka moments where you're like, of course that does that. Oh, how can I be so stupid? And and they brought it out, and it had some rough edges. Like some of the puzzles were super obscure or fiddly to pull off, which is like its big kind of problem with it. So they did a big update, which is Toki Tori 2 Plus.
I was going to say, do you think the Plus update ruined it a bit?
No,
you did love. I know you had trouble with it at the start, but there was something about Toki Tori 2 when you were explaining it. It was always about that obscurity,
but it's still obscure. What they've done is they've removed some puzzles, which were the ones which were really fiddly to execute. And they've replaced them with equally brilliant puzzles. So they made new chunks of the game. They listened to people's complaints on Miiverse, and they basically fixed it properly. It wasn't some patch update. I mean, it's kind of annoying though that you can't play the original Toki Tori 2. It's no longer available. But if you had it, it automatically updated. So I actually played both versions, and they're sort of reasonably different enough that you could have justified keeping one and having the other one.
Like a free expansion pack almost.
But the new version is a lot smoother. It still doesn't explain itself, which is great. It's still very kind of vague, and it lets you discover it at the same pace. You still get that thrill, but at the same time, in the old game, you could sometimes think, am I just doing this wrong, or is this the wrong thing, or am I just executing this poorly? Well, that doesn't really happen in Plus, so I think it is the superior version.
Weird world map where you can always see the bird's feet.
Well, no, there's a thing where you play a little song and then you get lifted up and dropped.
Oh, is that what
But
happens?
when you're looking down, you can see your feet. It's a really cute game, and it's actually got quite a dark sense of humour as well, because a lot of it's about
Murdering
tricking
animals.
other animals into kind of killing each other, which is quite funny. It's really hard. It's quite cheap for what it is. I've played it all the way through, and I've really enjoyed it. It was a big surprise, and it's the kind of thing I'm really hoping to see more of from eShop.
It's a really cool thing. Speaking of eShop developers, there's this kind of odd trend amongst the smaller developers now that you get games where they release them and then they ask people, oh, what did you think about like very specific aspects? And then they change them. Night Underground, which sadly hasn't made my list, but is a brilliant eShop game that you should all check out, has come out on the Wii U with exclusive content that came from the developer going on Reddit and asking people to tell him what they liked and didn't like.
About
and then
the
he
PC
made
version.
a huge, about the PC version. Then made a huge load of expansions and changes and extra content that gave people what they wanted.
Right.
It's this weird like feedback and kind of not beta versions, but like creating expansion packs purely out of respect for the players who have invested in it. I really like that, and I'd like to see that kind of trend. Like I think Two Tribes have set a nice precedent for Miiverse use that I hope other eShop developers are going to do.
I think Two Tribes in general are kind of exemplary of how you should treat eShop, not just in that, but also like their pricing. You know, they've been releasing these smaller puzzles, Edge, Rush, things like that, and they're kind of £2 each.
Yeah,
little pops of entertainment. I mean, it's exactly as it should be. I mean, you've got some other stuff on there which is still quite overpriced, and I wish them well. I want them to be a big eShop success because I think they're a smart team.
We love those Dutch guys.
We do. We love them. So, on to number 8.
Oh, we're back to that, are we?
Yeah, I forgot to do it for 9.
Yeah, you did. That was a bit sad.
So what's your number 8?
Street Pass Mansion.
Oh, what?
The world's best Street Pass game. It's so good. I love Street Pass
Mansion better than Animal Crossing?
Yes. I still play it every single day, and I can't say that for Animal Crossing. Street Pass Mansion's just some of the most intelligent use of weird forced systems that I think I've seen maybe anywhere this year. Like they've seen this weird nebulous thing. Like Street Pass is hard to explain to people who don't understand it. That you're kind of passing data, but it doesn't really affect anything unless a game uses it.
Yeah.
And this just goes, okay, how do we build that into? It's not fitting that into something. So where the other paid Street Pass games like Street Pass Squad was like, okay, we just use that for weapons in a shooter game. This goes, what are the basic principles of Street Pass? How do we build a game out of that? So every Street Pass you get gives you a piece of, like essentially a Tetris block. And then you put that on a map, like a grid, and that creates rooms in that map. So if you're matching colours, because the colours are all determined by people's favourite colours as Mii's in Street Pass, you get these huge sprawling rooms, and the bigger the rooms, the better the rewards in them. Every time you open up a 4 square, you get a chest in the middle of that gives you an item or something. And you can get these massive hallways, but then if you want to just finish a place and get to the stairs which lead you to the next grid, you kind of get tiny little corridors. And it's like this sort of crowdsourced architecture you're creating.
Right.
But underneath all of this, there's like quite a competent little action RPG with like a really interesting crafting system and a lot of risk and reward systems for how you make your weapons and how much you're going to spend on making a better weapon as opposed to, because there's 5 types of weapons as well. It's this brilliant, massive stuff.
Is it better than Street Pass Garden, though?
Yes, it's much better than Street Pass Garden. Although Street Pass Garden has grown on me in the last month or so. But yeah, no, but it all comes down to this basic principle of how does Street Pass work? How do we make this entertaining? And it's just endless. It's so good. Like I lost all my data. And I was up to like my 3DS broke. I had to get it repaired. Unfortunately, all the data got lost because whatever I'd done to it had destroyed it. When I got it back, I was like, oh man, I've lost like 20 complete rooms in Street Pass Mansion, which took me so long. And then I was like, you know what? All the other Street Pass games, I couldn't care less. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
But Street Pass Mansion, I am plowing through it again because it's just so good. It's just so much fun.
You love Street, but you do love maps.
I love
and
maps.
things.
I really love maps.
We often talk about your love of maps in the office.
There's something really exciting about maps. So yeah, and that is a big deal for me. But I think I challenge anyone to tell me that Street Pass Mansion isn't. It's one of the most perfectly crafted games of the year. I will lay my head on the chopping block.
What about those poor chaps who live out in the countryside and don't have anyone to Street Pass with?
I'll do a Don Matt trick and say, well, play with something that isn't Street Pass. But yeah, no, it's wonderful. If you obviously the situations have to be right, and I think to a certain extent, the Street Pass relays now have fixed that because you can get a steady stream just by walking past a McDonald's. So yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Ah,
That was a long spiel about Street Pass
it
Mansion.
was. I must admit, it didn't make my list, but I kind of... I know that you like your maps.
I fly the flag for Street Pass Mansion.
Yeah.
Your number 8?
My number 8 is Mario and Luigi Dream Team Bros.
Still haven't played this.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's called Dream Team Bros over here.
Dream
Why
Team.
is it? Because it's Dream Team everywhere else.
Yeah.
Why do we need bros?
I don't know.
I mean, it's fun to say bros.
Yeah. It's a mystery. But
Sorry.
no, that's all right. Yeah, I just thought this was. I must, I'll come clean. I'm a huge Mario and Luigi fan. Like I love that series and kind of what it does differently. I love the action commands of the combat and that you have to kind of hit the buttons in time with it and all that kind of jazz. I thought this one was a bit unfairly maligned actually because everyone said, it's got all these tutorials in it, and it's like, yeah, it has got lots of tutorials in it. In like the first 5 hours of a huge 40-hour game. Like if at the end of that game you're thinking tutorials, you haven't reached the end of that game. You're still playing the tutorials. It to me it just sort of felt like when I finished it, I didn't even remember the tutorials because I just remembered like the bizarre, surreal scale of it. This kind of Luigi going into the dream world and turning into giant Luigi and stacking up into these squealing piles of Luigis. Like, it's mad. Like, it's really strange. And, in this, the year of Luigi, I thought this was, like, the best... Oh, no, maybe it wasn't the best Luigi game. But I thought this was a great celebration or investigation of that character through, like, this dream space. And the music in it is really good. It's... I can't remember her name. I'm pretty sure it's Shimomura, Yoko Shimomura, perhaps, who did. She does all the Mario and Luigi stuff, and she did some stuff in Xenoblade as well. And it's just the battle themes are some of my favourite battle themes in any game ever. In that I'd have my headphones in and I'd be bopping along doing the battles, and it's the whole thing is about the kind of rhythm of sort of smashing the attack button in time with attacks. And you've got this music which is it's almost like going like, yeah, the smash the buttons.
Does it act in a rhythm action fashion?
Not with the music, but the music's got this real
punched.
it's very kind of crisp sort of punchiness to it. So the whole thing is like da 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 ba 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 ba, and you're just hitting these things and all these mad like light explosions, all these neon rays are coming out of everything, and it's just really big and bright and fun. And I love the look of it. It's really funny. The writing's funny as ever. It's not quite as maybe funny as Bowser's Inside Story. I think it lacks a good villain. Like the new sort of vampire guy is a bit of a weak joke.
That's the thing. The actual setup of the actual plot that you're following, from what I have played, which is not that much. It has to be said, is not hugely strong, but then it's
not, and it's just an excuse to like go and get mystical thing from this place. But in each place you meet like little mad characters who have their own little kind of story, and you meet these two kind of beefcake mountain climbers who are obsessed with screaming like beefcake, and these increasingly increasingly surreal kind of meat-based strength puns. And then there's
that mountain you talk about a lot, the bit where you climb a mountain one time and then in a dream you climb it again, and it's crazy, and I love that little...
Yeah, that's the thing. It makes you do everything in real life, and then you kind of, you do a level in the kind of real world as it is, and then you do the dream version, and it kind of like reinterprets everything you've just done. So like the music becomes like weird and dreamy. The enemies are like variations on bits of scenery you've seen. I just like the idea that Luigi's been absorbing this adventure and has interpreted it as this kind of crazy sort of mad dream. I just think it's a really smart game. I really, really liked it, and I played the whole thing in a weekend, and it was about 40 hours. Like I was really lost in that game.
I think Alpha Dream really get something that other people are a bit, maybe not cowardly, but they don't quite see the possibility there, because Mario is such a blank story slate. It's sort of interesting how much Alpha Dream try and delve into their, like, literally into their characters. They always do this thing where it's like, we're going to create something lasting for this person. So Luigi, Bowser, they have this really interesting way of like projecting something onto these people.
Yeah. In a way that I think Paper Mario's often the joke in Paper Mario is that he's this sort of blank thing which just ends up in these crazy adventures, and Mario doesn't really say anything. He just sort of gawks gormlessly at everything. And yeah, you're right. Alpha Dream do. They try to have a bit more fun. Maybe not with Mario himself. He's still pretty bland in it. But like Luigi, definitely in this, and Bowser in the last one. Yeah, I just really like it. I think it's really packed with stuff. I mean, it uses the 3D in some nice little ways in some of the battles and things, and it uses some of the gyros. It just tries to have a bit of fun with it. I thought it was really smart. I really liked it. I was really surprised actually when I thought everyone was going to be giving this one a big thumbs up, and then it seemed that US press kind of kicked its face off. Really,
it's really weird.
Yeah, I didn't get it, but
plus
anyway.
It's part of the year of kaiju.
Yeah, well, it's part of my list, and yeah, exactly. It's basically Pacific Rim 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great game.
Lovely.
Number 7.
Oh, we've gone into sort of Camp California now.
Well, I'm going to do a different voice for each one.
I like it. Number 7. Mine is Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate. Is that on your list?
It's not on my list.
Man, we're doing well.
Yeah.
What a breadth of games Nintendo has had.
Yes. We have not been paid to construct these lists in this manner.
Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate is a long title, but a very easy game to sum up. It's a perfect 2D distillation of what... what are they called? What's the studio called? They're good. The Spanish ones.
Mercury Stream.
Yeah, those guys. It's a perfect distillation of what they got so right about Lords of Shadow in 2D form. It looks fantastic. Like, there are bits of this game that I still think look better than anything else on 3DS. Perhaps with the exclusion of Kid Icarus in it. I'm not sure. There are moments in this where it gets scale on a tiny screen so right. Like, I don't know how they've managed to do that and still have you playing properly.
I think they sacrificed frame rate.
They sacrificed some frame rate. They sacrificed definitely in sound quality, but it's genuinely astounding, some of it. The 2D combat system, while it has to have been simplified, is perfectly tuned to getting you into that rhythm that Lords of Shadow did as well. It has this sort of... It's the kind of thrusting forwards and then dodging back, and really gets that like swing, and the whip really gets... Everything about it is just
got great
satisfying.
Weight to it.
Yeah, exactly.
When you get that move where he sort of whips it continuously in front of him, like...
Yeah.
It's got a real kind of weight. It's kind of slow, but as it should be. It's kind of like you think, man, that's going to really sting if I get hit with that.
And they really get the progression of moves as well. Like, I think where it loses out in its Vania, of Metroidvania. A lot of people had a problem with how it wasn't Symphony of the Night or something with that grand sprawling backtracking stuff. But I think where it makes up for it is in making its action mechanics way more progressive. So you start off with these little moves. When you get to the final moves, you're doing just amazing stuff, and like getting the button combos right and nailing when you need to do it for certain enemies is so satisfying. And I still think it's the best action game on 3DS. I don't think anything touches it. Like, even Batman, which is the game with the best action system, couldn't be replicated in 2D well enough. And this really nailed it. It's fantastic.
Good bosses as well.
Really good bosses. The Demon Lord fights are just wonderful. Like, and it really there are points where it feels like a platformer. There are not in terms of your traversal, but in the boss fights. They're better than Mario bosses, but they have the same thing. You're jumping over stuff and ducking under other things, and like, it really gets the 2D aspect right.
Yeah, it's old school. Like, they've often said that they kind of we interviewed them about this, that it kind of, they were looking more to like Super Castlevania, or the older kind of Castlevanias anyway, and for inspiration, it's a bit more kind of like attack patterns, and it's a bit more old school, but it's old school shot through with like modern tech. It's kind of what you would have made in the kind of early 1990s if you'd had what you have today. It's why I like Lords of Shadow on the 360 and whatnot. Is it did that in a kind of 3D space, but it's kind of even purer to see it in the 2D space.
And it's just as like stupid and Grand Guignol as all that stuff as well. It really has that sense of Castlevania, like the I think she's called the Succubus. The boss. She's just horrible, freakish, like over-sexualized creepy monster thing.
Yeah.
It's great. It just nails that Castlevania stuff.
Yeah.
And
The last 2 hours of that game as well are just insane.
The pacing of the kind of the way it sends you through the different generations of characters and how you see the castle change and how you see everything. It kind of recognizes what you want from the game at that point. 10 hours in, it's doing something completely different to 5 hours in. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it's kind of like it's almost a bit of a one-shot deal, though. Isn't it? I think it's the kind of thing I struggle with a little bit.
I don't think I could play it again, but I think in terms of like just a straight, or maybe in like a year, I'll come back to it and I'll just rush through it again, because it is a game that you just want to go, right, I'm doing this, and just play through, and it's done. And it just gives you that hit after hit after hit of really fun stuff. I think it's one of my Mercury Steam finishing with Lords of Shadow after the next one on home consoles. This like secret little part of me that's like, okay, come back to 3DS. 3DS is doing really well. Just make something new and exciting, because I think they know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I think with a bit more time and a bit more license, I think to do what they want, I should say, I think it could be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, they're good.
Lovely.
Good. What number are we on?
7.
Oh, it's a little, very much a personal choice. This one, they're all personal choices, but this one is quite specific. Ace Attorney: Dual Destinies.
I've only just started this, but it's already great.
Yeah, it's really good. I was just really pleasantly surprised by it, because I'll be honest, I didn't think much of Ace Attorney Investigations. I thought it was a pretty weak source as far as these things go. Like, it felt like kind of weird fan fiction to me. They sort of went, oh, everyone likes Edgeworth, let's just do a game of Edgeworth, but then they got the character all wrong, and it just didn't make any sense that, taking him out of the court. And so in a way, just going back to the original characters may seem like a bit of a cop-out, but I think it works. Plus, it's not, they are new characters. It's about Apollo Justice and Athena Sykes. It's not really about Phoenix Wright, and I think that's right. I think that was the right thing to do, because it lets them sort of take the story in a different direction. And I think the thing which really gets me about it is I think the writing's a little not quite like
it's
as
not
funny.
Takumi, is it?
No, it's not like the characters, like visual design, are brilliant. They're really great, and there's comedy in how they act and behave, but not necessarily in kind of how they speak. But the construction of the cases is brilliant. Like, the mysteries are really well hidden, really well built, and to have the right level and number of twists. And like, rarely I think you can see how it's going to work out in the end. I think actually several of them did kind of take me slightly by surprise in a way that the old games never really did. I thought it was really, really solid, and it kind of sort of re-established my faith in that series. I thought, oh yeah, this is actually the start of something, and people have reacted really well to it.
Yeah.
The DLC's really good as well. The Turnabout Reclaimed, the sort of killer whale on trial. It's completely ridiculous, but
Plus, Ted Tonate is still one of the best names they've come up with.
Yeah, they are good.
Ted Tonate, that's wonderful. I don't know, I think about it a lot. I'm just like, oh, that's a good name.
They are good. Yeah, it's really well done. I'm hoping that its success triggers them to do more. Because it's gone down really well in Japan, and I just want more. I want more Phoenix Wright. To me, the thing 3DS is missing at the moment is that kind of second tier of weird and wonderful that DS had so much of, and Phoenix Wright was very much the kind of the jewel in that weird crown on DS, and it should lead the charge on 3DS as well. Just make more games, and if only releasing them on digital, if that's the way to do it, then do it.
They understand. They clearly understand that that's the place for it now. The eShop release, that's one of the most pleasant release surprises. As boring as market talk can be, I think there was a real hint of some genuine intelligence behind the thinking of going, okay, this is an eShop game. That's just where it sits now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were like, oh, I want the box and everything, because it is a collection, Ace Attorney's always been there, and I think people were sad not to have the box. But there's I think it really worked well. Pricing wise, I think people just could afford to just go, you know what, I'll take the plunge and get back into it. It's just, it's great.
Yeah.
Such a good little thing.
There you go. Number 6.
My number 6 is Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate.
Really?
On 3DS and Wii U.
Oh.
Because this is the year I actually finally got Monster Hunter. It was always this weird thing. I
said Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter.
Which is trying to find Eddie Munster.
That's me chasing that grandpa vampire with a sword.
I would love to see a Monster Hunter The Monsters crossover.
They've got enough crossovers. They've just announced the Fire Emblem stuff they're doing in Monster Hunter Frontier. So
If the Colonel from KFC can be in Monster Hunter, which I'm pretty sure he has been.
what?
Yeah, like a PSP version in Japan.
Oh my
I
god!
think, or maybe it was a golf game. It was one of the two.
Well, yeah, two such normal
But
things.
if he can't, I want to see Eddie Munster. No, Eddie was the dad, right?
I think so. Or was he the annoying kid?
I want to see the dad. I want to see the Frankenstein dad.
Hey, I'm a monster dad.
Yeah, I want to kill him with a lance.
I didn't.
Basically, is what I'm saying.
I didn't like his mouth. I didn't like that man's mouth. I couldn't tell.
There
whether
was a
that
lot about Eddie
prosthetics.
Munster that wasn't right.
Yeah, he was a bit of a weirdo. There's a lot about the monsters.
Imagine you
that
having your
wasn't right.
dad is a reanimated corpse.
It was such a crappy Addams family, wasn't
It
it?
was. But anyway,
We're off the point.
Why do you like Monster Hunter?
Because I had a PSP when all the Monster Hunter stuff was kicking off, and I never quite got the kind of the thrust of it. It never quite got to me. And then when Tri came out, I think I sort of missed the boat. And then when this came out, I threw myself into it. And once you understand that rhythm, that this is literally a hunting game, it's just fantasy hunting. You're going out
in the
getting,
title.
Yes, but there's that weird thing where you kind of go, "Oh, it's an RPG." It's not an RPG. It's weird as hell. And I think if you go into it expecting something familiar, if you've not played this, you come out disappointed. But there's something about that rhythm of I'm going out, I'm getting my stuff, I'm coming back, I'm getting better, and I'm going out again. There's something really nice about that flow between home and wherever the wilderness you're going to is. And the multiplayer stuff is brilliant. Like some of the 4-player hunts I had are some of the most exciting moments of gaming I've had this whole year, where, you're suddenly, this Legiacrus is rearing up, smacking a friend out the way, you run up, take place in front of him, smash him in the face with a hammer, he reels back, and then 2 other people lay in, and it just becomes this like huge mess of stuff happening on your screen. I think it actually benefits slightly from the fact that it had to be scaled back visually.
Yeah.
Because I think the frame rate keeps up, and it really, it pulses the whole time, and it's just a really brilliant thing. And being able to, cross your saves between devices. I went into it going, I'm going to do this all the time. I didn't do it as much as I thought I would, but the moments when I wanted to go out and keep playing on my 3DS and go and do a hunt and collect some materials and stuff, it was so useful to just know that I could go, oh, you know what, I'm going to be on the train for an hour or so I need to go out. And yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just really sort of accommodating in a way that games often can't afford to be.
Yeah.
Really nice surprise. And I cannot wait for Monster Hunter 4 because it's Monster Hunter and it's also got bits of Dragon's Dogma in it, which is a good thing.
Well, I hope they do a Wii U version of that Monster Hunter 4. Like
I'd
an
be
HD version.
I'd be interested to see if they do, because they'll have. The problem is, I don't know whether they'll want to scale back the visuals again. I wonder if they want to hold back and make a proper console version that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited.
Interesting. That was like good. We went to that Monster Hunter Street Pass
Community
meetup
event.
thing.
Yeah,
that was fun.
That was great.
That was good actually, seeing it being played in the wild and
In the wild.
We know seeing how easy it was for kind of people to connect. Because I really liked. I played Monster Hunter Tri a lot on the Wii, which I think is why I didn't like. I wasn't up for. I think the early game in Ultimate is too similar to Tri's. I think a lot of the really meaty stuff doesn't happen until much later in the game, and I just couldn't really face it at the time. Not that there was anything else to play on Wii U back then.
That's the thing. I feel like I got my fill even. I never got to the really, the hugely tough stuff, like when you're really ranking up. But I put in like 50, 60 hours, and I didn't even get near to the end, and I still felt I've had
Yeah, I
everything
think you
need
can
out of this
do
game.
that. I think it's wonderful that there are these games which you can lose like 500 hours to if you so wish. And I always think it's it bugs me a bit when you constantly see this sort of Nintendo isn't supporting the hardcore. And it's like they have put so much support behind Monster Hunter, trying to turn Monster Hunter, which is really resistant to sales in the West. They have really gone for it. I mean, they've done everything in their power, giving away, buy this, you get a free version to give to your friend. They're trying to spread Monster Hunter.
And I think they did quite well.
Yeah, I think,
I think it bodes really well for a localization of 4, which we still don't fully know
I would
about,
be
but
very surprised if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
That would be insane for them not to.
That's so good, man.
But yeah, I've got high hopes for it. I did like it. I just felt like I'd kind of done it a bit before. I also I feel a little bad that we gave it a bit of a mean score on Wii U.
Did we?
As a magazine, we gave it like a 79, which maybe was a little.
There's a case to be made for a higher score that I think I would be in favour
And
of.
it is a bit it is a bit kind of brutal to absolute newcomers, but I'd argue that there is a support network, a very kind and willing support network
And Miiverse,
online.
that's actually, speaking of Miiverse, that's one of the best Miiverse. I think that is the best Miiverse community. Like, I went on, had some very, very specific nerdy questions to ask, so I just posted it up. Within a minute, I had like 4 people going, here's your answer. And it just like, it is like a little, just, it becomes a chat room for people who are really into, and so accommodating to beginners, like a wonderful little integration there. Yeah, so good.
Very good.
Your number 6?
My number 6, Luigi's Mansion 2.
I don't have that.
You haven't got it on your list?
I loved that game, but there's just so much other stuff.
Whoa, we haven't had any. I thought we were going to have so much crossover. I thought this list was going to fly by, but we were actually. I'm hoping the
Spin
next
the bottle
one's-
and Street Boss Mansion just edged it out.
Yeah, and the old, it's no Star Wars pinball. Is
It was brilliant. I haven't finished it. That was
Mm.
part of the 3DS data loss. I've lost all my progress and I can't face it quite yet.
Yeah, listen, we've talked at great length about Luigi's Mansion 2, but I don't think it's like a massively deep game. I don't think it's a thing you're going to be playing for like years and years to come. But as just a really nice, precious, shiny thing that feels like they've pumped like huge amounts of money into making it look really nice. The 3D is really nice. It's so detailed, and the level of detail for how much content there is. There's all these mansions, and each one's a unique place, and it's got all these interesting little rooms. We've actually got a really nice bit in the upcoming issue, or the issue on sale now, where someone was talking about the kind of peeping, through the holes and stuff. And every little detail is so kind of rich that you can kind of sort of fall in love with it, even though the game is fundamentally, just flash ghosts with a light, and then suck them up. There's not a lot to it, but it's just a really. It's funny as well, like the physical comedy element of it. It's a real attempt to make a kind of a slapstick comedy in its sort of digital form, which I think is really cool, and the music and the production values. And it was like it just sort of won me over with that. Really, it's
kind of weird to find a handheld game so warm.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like you say, there's been so much pumped into it, and part of it is that like making Luigi this central little character, not just your way around. He's not like a little vessel. He is this man you're piloting who falls over and does stuff that you can't control as you're going along. I love that.
It's fun. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm really hoping that normally I like Nintendo to work on brand new exciting things, but I wouldn't mind them to go to next level games. Hey, do you want to make a really shiny Wii U? Maybe not Luigi's Mansion 2, because it's very much tailored to portable, like the size of the levels and stuff.
No, you want a new thing.
I want a new thing, but I think they've proved themselves way capable of doing it. I'd love to see them just, because it's such a good-looking 3DS game, I'd love to see what those guys did with the Wii U, with an actual bit of power behind it, and that could be a sexy game.
Imagine the 3D World lighting engine behind that. Like, they could make that look good.
Oh, man, I would love to play that. And I think it's proved itself quite a its success. It's got a interest in it. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced something like that this year. In fact, we have no evidence of that, but I think it would be such an obvious move.
We've heard nothing from Next Level since, so they must be on something.
If it turns out they're working on like a new Mario Strikers, I'm going to scream. No one wants that.
Mario Strikers Mansion.
Oh,
they all just kicked footballs at ghosts.
That would suck. That's the kind of rubbish that would be in a Mario Strikers game. Number 5.
Oh, you did that for 6.
Did I?
Voice. Yeah, you did a very similar one. Come on.
Number 5.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good. Bit Papa Lazarou. Nice. Number 5 for me is SteamWorld Dig.
Whoa, it's not in my list.
I didn't think it would be. SteamWorld Dig was the most pleasant surprise of the year. I think we're. I don't know. You're with me on that, aren't you? I don't think there's anything that's come along. 3DS having had the year it's had. We knew everything was coming on it. We could see that maybe Castlevania we were a bit shaky on, but then, you look at Luigi's Mansion 2, you look at these big Nintendo games, we knew what they could be. SteamWorld Dig popped up and just, was like nothing else. It was so weird. Imogen Form, this Swedish studio who'd made, a passable tower defense DSiWare game and some iPhone stuff, made, one of the best Metroidvania games of the year with its own twist. You're creating your own tunnels, and there's something so just truly unusual about it, and really satisfyingly put together. It's a great platformer. The feel of moving Rusty around that place, every movement feels so secure. You know exactly where you're going to end up once you understand the guy. And then every upgrade gives you that little bit more power to go, okay, right, I'm going to go back to where I thought I was going to be, getting through before but couldn't. And just has that unraveling.
I remember, like, when you were reviewing it in the office, you were constantly, like, every half an hour or so, you'd be kind of cooing with wonder, like, oh, wow, it's just done this cool thing, or it's just done this thing, and it was like, you could see, like, your enthusiasm upgrading,
exactly.
with the game.
That's
kind
literally
of thing.
it. I was gear gating my own happiness. It was brilliant. Like,
I'm so pleased for them as well, because, like, everyone loves this game, and it instantly shot to the top of the eShop chart, which shows that you make a good game, the people are there for it, and the guy from the studios, this brilliant lunatic.
He's absolutely nuts. And as much as you have that slight little bit of like, oh, it's ours, and it's come out on Steam, and and people are really reacting well to this HD Steam release. There is that bit of me that's going, I wish it had stayed on 3DS, so it's our special little thing. But you've got to feel happy for them. I mean, it's just such a cool little prospect, and I cannot wait to see what they do next.
I really hope. This is the thing, like, it would be so... I know they've said they're not just doing Dig 2.
Yeah.
They'd make it... Probably because I imagine they were making it... Whatever they were making, I imagine they were making it...
Before they knew
what a success it was going to be. I mean, this is the thing. I remember SteamWorld Dig getting press releases about it like 2 years ago.
Oh,
like, when I was on Endgamer, I remember getting this thing through. And shamefully, I'm embarrassed to say this, at the time, kind of looking at it, just reading over the information, looking at some screens and going, it sounds like there's some eShop, sounds like some nonsense. And put it aside. And I really regret not... because that would have been what a beautiful story had you followed it from the start and sort of seen them through to this point where they're at now, rather than come to it late and go, oh yeah. But it goes to show, like, in this day and age, you get the idea that there are no surprises.
Yeah.
Everything is PR to the nth degree. You kind of know what everything is before you're going to get it. I mean, you can kind of call it before you even play it.
Yeah. And
to have something which comes out of nowhere and genuinely sort of wows everyone, like, it's what a treat. I
kind of think they understand that now as well, because as much as I've talked to Brian from Image Inform, he's refused to tell me anything about the new game, and I think he has a very good idea about what he wants to do with it. I think he all he said is, I've played a vertical slice of the game my studio's made. I think it's incredible, and that is enough for me to go, come on, give me it. And I might have an expectation now, but I still have no idea what it's going to be. And I think they're going to leverage that. And again, it's 3DS exclusive. I hope it's coming out next year. And I cannot wait to be surprised again, because that is, hands down, that's the thing that I was just like, what do I have here? It's brilliant. Like, pure gold.
Pure gold. That's pretty good.
That I mind. Number 5. Come on.
Pikmin 3.
Don't have it.
Oh,
I haven't played enough Pikmin 3.
Yeah. It's funny because we played such this. Everyone goes, "There's no games," but actually there are enough games that we've been playing them throughout the year, and not all played everything.
Yeah.
I really, really like this. I thought at the time I remember thinking, "Oh, it's just a really rock solid Pikmin game." It's just Pikmin made in HD, and it's very nice, and that's fine, and that's good. But actually, kind of going back to it, I think particularly like the challenge mode, and Miyamoto had this big line about the kind of strategy of like how you'd become obsessed with these little strategy scenarios and the kind of ease of play, and how that would kind of lead to you. And it's right. I really like that part of it. Those little challenge maps. I think it's really revealed itself as this kind of pure strategy game, where before it was like a weird adventure game. Where you just had all these hundreds of things at your fingertips. Now it's a thing where you actually have to manage types and what they're doing, and with the Wii pointer, which is the only way to play it in my opinion. And you're just sending them off, and I've written it in several previews, and it's become quite tiresome for me to say it, but it makes me feel like Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, okay.
He stands on the rock and he's like getting the brooms over there, and you do this and you do that, and you're standing in the middle of all this like industry just buzzing around you, and there's like things carrying grapes, and they're off fighting that, and they're smashing this wall down, and like when it all kicks off, you look at it and you're like, yes, this is what Pikmin was always meant to be. When Miyamoto said he like looked, saw ants and kind of thought about them and their movement, but beforehand it's always been kind of like swarm everything. But here you have all these little trails of things, and they're carrying the bits of bridge, which that carrying mechanic, like the fragments, it's just so lovely. Like the way they bob and
really
tweeze,
satisfying as well.
It's got this real kind of physicality to it. You know, everything's got this kind of rich kind of texture. You can kind of sort of feel the world, like the gloss of the little ceramic shards and the kind of dirt, and it feels great, and you feel kind of completely in command of this mad place. And it's got giant fruit, which I really like, and they've all got brilliant names,
incredible names.
It's a really good game. Like I've seen again, like I don't mean to keep bringing up people's negative opinions, but you see some people going like, yeah, I did it in 8 hours, it's done then. That's that then. Oh, it was great waiting for 5 years for 8 hours of Pitman. You're like, it's not really about that, you know. It's like,
sort of weird, that whole thing is like, you know, I've just played this magical little thing, but it wasn't long enough. You know what? Like, if it works for that time, just enjoy it.
Yeah, but the challenge mode is really good. Actually, I need to get my sort of hands around the new
DLC
maps. Yeah, I haven't played the very latest set, which is the kind of the new levels, and it's got like a Christmas level, which looks brilliant.
And Olimar.
You can slide down. I'm going to save that for Christmas Day.
That's a good call.
I'm going to slide down a Christmas ball.
I bet if Miyamoto heard you talking about that, he'd be really happy. You, the only person who liked Wii Music, talking about how Pikmin is essentially you conducting. Pikmin around.
It sounds like sort of so. I've never met Miyamoto. You know, I'm doing this for like 7 years now, and it really drives me up the wall, because every time people interview him and they just ask him about the same old.
Are you going to retire soon?
So, the same old stuff. Well, I just genuinely want to chat to him about like Wii Music and the mad nitty gritty of Pikmin 3. I don't really care what he's doing next.
Do you think people would want to read that interview?
Yeah, because I think he'd genuinely have something to say rather than you know, he sort of humours all the other interviewers, doesn't he? With this sort of like, oh yes, very, you know, yes, I'm sure we'll make Star Fox. I'm really proud of that series, and you're like, yeah, but actually, you know. Wii Music was great, but Pikmin 3 is much better than Wii Music.
Is it? That's a scoop. Didn't you give Wii Music a higher score? No, you didn't review Pikmin 3. Sorry, I forget. Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it, and it's kind of, I liked it a fair bit when it first came out, but it's actually really grown or kind of crawled all over me, like I'm like a Bulbul.
That sounds horrible. I do find killing Bulbul really sad.
But that's because isn't it like? It has that sort of ugliness of nature about
really
it,
does.
Which I think is really
well, there's
fun.
a bit where one of them says early on, they're like, oh, nature's really dark. And you're like, yeah, it is. It's horrible. Like, I was playing in quite a bad mood the other day, and I had to stop because I was just like, this is awful, some of this stuff that I'm doing.
The characters as well, really, like, there's the girl, Brittany's really malicious.
It's horrible.
She's like, maybe I'll eat all the juice when they're not looking, and then they'll starve and all this kind of stuff.
I love those diary entries as well.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, what a great little game.
Wonderful.
I did that voice before.
Yeah, you've done that loads. Come on.
Number 4.
What's that?
I don't know.
It's like weird Kermit.
Yeah. Number 4.
Number 4. Assassin's Creed 4. Have you got this?
What? Really?
Yeah.
All right.
What's wrong?
It's not on my list.
Assassin's Creed 4 is amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, sorry, it just took me by surprise.
Why?
Well, because there's other things I'm expecting to appear.
I've got 3 more things that are all very expected from me. I can tell you that. Assassin's Creed 4, I think, is everything Assassin's Creed should have been up to this point. I think it's it's this wonderful... it's almost choreographed. It's this feeling of like, I'm going to go sailing for a bit. I'm going to have fun sailing for a bit. And as soon as you get bored, you are right next to something to go and see. There's something about the way they've built that. I don't know. I don't think it's a true map of the Caribbean. Surely not.
I don't think so.
So there is this sense that they've constructed everything so that you'll always be close to something else interesting. And it's the first Assassin's Creed game where I feel like they've got collecting right. Because I couldn't give 2 anythings that aren't swear words.
Feathers.
About
feathers.
About feathers in Assassin's Creed games. And in this one, they've just got the placement of animus fragments right. You know, like, you see one up a tree, you can't climb that tree. And suddenly you're just going, okay, tiny little platforming puzzle for a second. I've just got to work out the first tree, second tree, get to that. And then the sea shanties that float away.
Oh, they stress me out.
I love them.
Because I'm always bodging the running. If I'm so bad at the free running.
Oh, it's so good. And then as soon as you're done on an island, you strip mine this place. It's not like, oh, that's it. Sorry. It's just hop on the boat, go like plunder someone else, board a ship. Like boarding a ship is incredible. Like there's that one GIF online where someone said this sums up why Assassin's Creed 4 is the best Assassin's Creed game. And he's on top of a mast, he's swinging down, he's shooting 4 people, he's slashing the captain's throat, and then they're all cheering. And you're like, yes, this is piracy. I am the coolest swashbuckling douchebag in the world. And
Heard it here first.
But yeah, let's cut that out. As in, that's all I want played for me. It's weird. The weird thing where you're kind of playing as the most awful pirate, but it gets the like.
He's not that awful though. He's
go,
quite a cheeky chappy compared to the other
Have
ones.
you completed a fort attack yet?
Yeah.
So when you get to the end and you just have to murder the commander of the fort in cold
but
blood.
he's the baddie.
I did that by accident. The best time I did the biggest fort fight I've done yet, where I had to kill 3. It was in a storm. There was a water twister coming around. I had to destroy like 8 or 10 gun emplacements.
Right.
Then you get on, you have to kill 3 officers, and then you get in. During the course of this, I'd picked up one of those big guy's axes, but I'd forgotten about it, so I just walked into this room and planted the axe in the guy's head. And my guy's like, yeah! I just felt like, pirates, pirates. And then I got on my ship and everyone sang What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor? And you're like, what a game. Like, they just understand adventure like they never seem to have before.
It is great. The songs are brilliant, the shanties.
Such a neat little reward that, like, you can't turn them on. They just happen, and you've
can turn
earned
them
that. What?
The
Can you
D-pad.
choose them? Oh, I didn't know
It's
you
like a
could choose
radio
them.
station.
Well, we ruined it now.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I don't turn them on, and it feels like a neat little reward. Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Oh, yeah, I flick through them until I get the shanty I want.
I like the one where they're going, it's a lie, it's a lie,
Lie, it's a lie, lie, lie.
That's the good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a game.
That's
Such a
brilliant.
good game. See,
What's a lie? I don't even know what the rest of the song's about.
Something bad. I don't know.
Yeah. It is great. Oh, it's so good. And the ocean looks so good. Like, it looks kind of next gen, I think, on current gen.
It's
like,
one of the few games on Wii U that I feel like currently pushes the Wii U. Like, it's just like scrapes it forwards into what it wants. I think it's
great game.
Battles in Storms.
Scary as well. Like, I'm not very good at it. I think it's because there are areas of water, right, where the difficulty's higher.
I don't know.
The ships are naturally, like when you're on the world map, it says like easy, medium, hard.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
So there's so there are ships which are like it naturally gates off stuff that you're not ready for.
Oh, there are bits where you literally can't.
But that's the thing.
through.
I keep finding myself in these stretches and being unaware of that, and I'm just getting destroyed. But I went after you get like legendary ships.
I got chased by those the other
That's
day.
the thing. I was going over towards it, thinking, "Oh, this is easy." He'll just go and get this legendary ship. And cool. And then just. Through the telescope, I saw like 3 of just the big. I hadn't seen a ship that
those
size.
Man of Wars.
It was so ominous.
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh God, I've got to get out of here." But it was really tense.
The first time I met them, I came towards them. I thought because it was an undiscovered point on the map, I was just going towards it because I was looking for whales to harpoon.
Oh, nice.
Like harpooning's awful. I don't like doing it at all. I've just decided I'm going to buy all the materials.
It's like where you
instead
can
of doing it
air
myself.
assassinate like an iguana as well.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible.
That's so stupid.
There's a reward for air assassinating a leopard. It's like
Well, I can understand like a big dangerous animal, but like an iguana jumping out of a tree to stab an iguana with a knife, which is
the
bigger
brain.
than the iguana.
But yeah, the legendary ships, like I was just going towards it and suddenly these things just loom up on the horizon and they see me. You see the marker come up and it's like, they're chasing you. A storm starts. I turn around, get hit by a wave and just like, oh my God.
Oh, those giant waves are
Yeah, the
great as
rogue
well. They're
waves.
properly like,
Where you have to ride
Yeah.
up them. Oh, what a game.
oh, it is great. I should have put it in my list. You're right.
I get out of breath
I'm
talking
gonna
about it.
scrape away one of my top 4 and
We've done it. Don't, because we've got more games to talk about.
I heard a slam. So my number 4 is Super Mario 3D World.
I've got that number 3, so let's talk about it now.
Let's talk about it now for your number 3.
Well, no, you go, because you haven't talked for a while.
I think it's a. I was about to say I think it's a great game, which is like the most tedious thing you can say about Mario. I think it's like this incredible explosion of ideas and creativity and technical excellence and polish and execution and everything you associate with the kind of Nintendo's Tokyo gang who make it. I think it's, you know, really beautiful music and I love it and it makes me so happy. But, and I know it sounds ridiculous that we're celebrating this thing, I'm putting this but I do have this like slight caveat where, like, for me, and I think this game confirmed it, like I have been ruined. I have been spoiled by Galaxy. Like, it's completely changed what I expect from, particularly from Mario. From what I expect from all games, but specifically from Mario and from a 3D Mario. And I think it is this like masterpiece, and it's like in most things, consoles would kill for a game that good and that polished and that well made and well rounded. But I have this constant niggling feeling that it's not quite. You know, it's not quite Warp Drive 11. You know, it's there. It's brilliant, and you know, I love it, and it has to go on my list because I love it. But I have this very strange relationship with it, where I'm kind of playing it, and I'm always thinking, "Oh, this is so good," and then every level like ends a little too soon for me, which is why it's only 4 in my list and not like 1.
Well,
where normally a 3D Mario should, you know, he owns. First place normally, like it's where he lives. It's where Mario lives, and it fell a little short in that regard. But you know, so it's kind of like it's a masterpiece, but with like a few caveats. Which
Absolutely
sounds like a weird thing to say, you know, in this end of year, game of year celebration thing. But like, God, and that guy, what a nightmare he has. Like to follow that. You know, we had interviewed them recently.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about Mario.
Like
he was
Mario,
a mate.
no, but if the whole lot of it, like what a legacy to fight, like, and you know, a nightmare to do another game in.
I'm with you, and we actually took, well, I specifically me, because I reviewed it, took a bit of flack in the forums for giving it 93, not a higher,
like 97,
higher 90 something.
Yeah.
But for just that reason, for us, I think as official Nintendo magazine, I think it is on us to go, this is not Galaxy. You know, we deserve that sprinkle more from Mario. But on the other hand, to bring it back to more positive stuff,
I know it sounds crazy,
it's
but
weird. Well, I almost think, like, as the follow-up, as the first HD one, they almost pitched it exactly right. I mean, we could have got Galaxy 3. That would have been incredible, and I'm sure, you know, we would have loved it. But that complete abandonment, is that a word? Of abandoning of that kind of grander structure and just going bam 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 bam, bam like just like fireworks of ideas. I think they pitched that perfectly right, because it just shows off every single thing they wanted to do without any of the worry of creating a wider structure and these kind of more sprawling sort of the kind of longer levels. I think almost it was the best way to introduce an HD Mario, to just go, this is something you just cannot have seen before, because no one else can do it like we can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to work on something a bit more traditional 3D Mario, a bit more.
Well, yeah, and the way they talk about it when you interview them, or even, you know, in the Iwata Asks interviews, you know, they almost sort of say that there's 2D Mario, there's 3D Mario, and then there's the 3D world and land. You know, there's almost like this sort of third way, which is kind of like a halfway house between the two. But you know, and I think my heart naturally belongs to the very 3D end of the spectrum. I think part of the thing is like little things, like he's just not quite as elastic, you know, like the movement on him.
Yeah, you always talked about it. I never felt the same way.
He's a bit more, I think he's a bit more, because he's sort of 8 directional, you know, he's a bit digital, you know, for D-pads and things. And I think that, considering that he was the character that Nintendo made the analog stick for, invented the analog stick for, I mean, I feel that slight step backwards, maybe.
I can see that.
Like, for me personally, and also I just don't think his moveset is quite as athletic. You know, it's a bit more rigid because it's designed for the video gamey rules that kind of govern 3D world. You know, his jump's a little more rigid. It's more like a kind of a 3D approximation of his 2D jump.
2D jump, yeah.
Well, like, you know, I love the triple jump. You know, I love, you know, in Galaxy. I was sad not to see the triple jump. I have to say, there is something lovely about that. In Galaxy, he feels like free in your hands a bit more, and and that's really at the end of the day what it comes down to. You just game feel, you just get it in your hands, and like. In your heart of hearts, if it's kind of right or wrong, and I don't mean I'm not down on it. I think it's absolutely marvelous, and I actually think I think the multiplayer stuff is, was a nightmare for them to pull off, and I think they've done it. And I've seen the game be played by like I gave it to my little sister and like her friends. None of them own a Wii U, or they're not keen game players or whatever, and they were just sort of arsing around in it and. Like, you realise how much nonsense every level is stuffed with. And they're like, oh, let's do that, where I see levels as, well, that's the level where you have to you climb through these fences to reach the goal pole. They'll be like, well, wait, let's go and do the level where you throw that ball at one another. And you're like, there's no level where you have to throw a ball at one another. And they're like, let's do the ball level, or let's do that level where we just ice skate for the whole thing. And then they just stay they get the Goomba skates, and they just stay on that ice rink for until the clock basically kills them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember when we were putting together the preview, we had that very games journalist thing of going, okay, let's look at everything we've ever seen of this game and work out what we're going to have from it. And one of the things was like the baseballs and football bombs that are in that. And I remember us all talking and being like, okay, so there's going to be sort of sports aspect, there's going to be something to this. There isn't at all. It's just sometimes there's a baseball in the level, you throw it at stuff. I love that. They've got this playground mentality of here's your toys, play with them if you want to. You're going to lose. You're not going to be playing how you're supposed to according to the level, but it doesn't matter because you're still having fun. And that's the multiplayer. That's what I think the multiplayer nails best. Like, we did it as two players trying to play properly against each other, which works, but equally 4 people just staying in a single square of grass, throwing stuff at one another. Like, we played snowball fights, one time where we were trying to catch it and throw it back. You get stuck on these little
ideas.
It's great.
No, it is really great. And it also, I think that need for a bridging game does exist. It's easy to overestimate. Everyone goes, well, everyone in our sphere, that is, on the team and readers and the forumites and whatnot, go like, oh, Mario Galaxy's too easy. Mario Galaxy's too easy. I know plenty of people who, given Mario Galaxy, just simply cannot do it. My little brother,
is tough.
But when I gave it to him, just the act of moving and existing in that kind of 3D warping, moving space is just too much for a lot of people to get their heads around, and that is a problem if Nintendo want everyone to buy a game. But I would argue there is still merit in selling 4 million copies to just the most hardcore 3D Mario fans who want a Galaxy. And I think they know it as well. And the way they were talking about Galaxy in Iwata Asks was basically like them going, don't worry,
it's coming.
We are going to make more games like that, and not that they should be ashamed of this at all. And this is a it's a great game. But
I think people forget that true 3D Mario games since 64 obviously have had a sense of adventure that's sort of been appended to the Mario experience. Because you don't play Super Mario World and go, oh, I'm on an adventure. I'm going from here to here. You're just playing levels, and that's what 3D World gets so right. You get this kind of sense of this is just this self-contained idea. Have a load of fun with it. And I think the adventure aspect is something we miss, but it's not necessary. It's not actually what makes Mario Mario. It's just this subset of Mario games have it, and it's brilliant, and it will come back because they love that. But for now, 3D World is one of the games of the year across all platforms because they know exactly what they're doing, and they've been doing it for years, and they do it better than anyone else. And it's just, it is wonderful. We have,
I know. I'm sorry. Trust me, it's great. It's brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic. So that was my number. So your number 3.
My number 3, and rather controversially above Mario, is Rayman Legends.
I don't have that on my list.
Oh, Joe.
I had to take it out because I knew you'd talk about it anyway. You love
it. Well, again. For me, I think Rayman Legends kind of did what, in the office I sometimes sort of jokingly refer to it as the galaxy of 2D platformers, and it's not quite that good, but it does the thing where it kind of gives you an idea, and it gives you a kind of grasp of the controls, and that you know what you're doing, and then it just kind of takes it that little bit further than it has to, and that's where the magic lies. It's in that kind of oh no, they wouldn't, they would, yay! It's that kind of realization that they're doing exactly kind of what you couldn't imagine, but you also sort of secretly hoped they were going to do. And it's again, I know some people who write it off completely because they just don't like the feel of Rayman, and that's perfectly fine. Like, he's a weird, he's so fluid, he's so he's such a jumble of like limbs, and the way he kind of bounces and ricochets off everything. He's not the tight kind of perfectionist presence that Mario is, but I like that. I like the speed of it. I think it's closer to the what's the sort of, on the spectrum, if you've got Mario is like perfectly balanced in the middle, and then you've got Donkey Kong Country at one end, which is like really precision. There is one way of doing this level. Like, you have to time this. You cannot kind of, magically acrobatic. You sort of ping your way through this. There is the right way to do Donkey Kong. Then Rayman is the kind of the mad scrabbling lunatic at the other end.
Yeah.
He is the exact opposite, where the challenges are just as tough and just as out there as Donkey Kong's, but you have this kind of elastic buffoon kind of in the middle of it all, and I really like that. And like artistically, the visual style, and it's like, it's zany, but it's zany done right. So charming. The music is so good, and the like the orchestral levels where you're jumping along to the music.
Oh yeah.
Absolute
Mariachi Madness is just
win. Like, I've not yet seen anyone who's seen those levels hasn't instantly been won over by them. It's such a great idea, and like the execution's brilliant. The Wii U execution's brilliant. And
it's funny as hell.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of the funniest platformers I've ever played. Like, there were bits where I had to stop playing because I'm laughing at stuff. Like the frog guys on stilts. When you smash their stilts away, the little noise they make, and the face, and that single second, like Wile E. Coyote before he drops.
Yeah.
They get all these little cartoon aspects so right. And Weird in Jokes has the best in joke I've seen this year, which is, the underwater level where you're creeping, not the underwater lab levels.
Yeah.
There's one where you have to unlock this
two doors.
You have to unlock this door by going through two different corridors of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's one bit where you're creeping through a load of the lasers that active. I can't remember if they see you or if they're a timer. You pass through the laser and then it turns on, and if you're not through quick enough, you get zapped. There's one bit where it's a proper little crawling through a laser field, like heist movie thing. And the music that plays in that one room, I'm almost positive, is a joke about the heist scene where what's the French actor in Ocean's 12?
Cassell.
Yeah, Vincent Cassel is doing the same thing in Ocean's 12, and I'm pretty sure the music is a joke on the music in Ocean's 12 in that one scene.
That is insanely niche.
And if it's not that niche joke, then it's testament to how good that game is that I have imprinted that on it. It's incredible. It's
I think it's such a nice thing, and it just feels so great. Like, it's such a great looking thing. It's just really ultra satisfying to play. So rammed with ideas, and it's got all the old Rayman levels in it as well. And actually, when you play them, you can see how far the level designs come from Origins.
And then you play the invasion levels, and you see how far they can push it as well.
I think it's a real complete package. At the end of it, I felt like I've seen so much. Like, I felt really suitably pushed. It didn't frustrate me, but at the same time, it kind of gave my sort of fingers one of like the proper workouts of the year. Which I hadn't had for a while. I just think it's really great game. I think Donkey Kong Country's got a real tough 2D platforming act to follow.
Very much does.
But yeah, and it's so cheap. Like, you can get it
like 20 quid now.
Yeah, you can get it for like 20 quid.
And it is best on Wii U.
Yeah, it is genuinely brilliant.
We've completely missed the Murphy stuff, which I think actually is really, really well done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not integral. You wouldn't miss it. But the bits, the small bits where you are playing as Murphy, chewing through the cake levels and all that stuff are really good. Just so satisfyingly made.
That's the thing. I just, I think in general, actually, I think Ubisoft have kind of pretty much storming it at the moment. Yeah. And, it's a shame that Rayman seems to be the blotch on their like little financial record. It seems to be the one which didn't sell anywhere near as well. And it's so good. Like, it's such a complete thing, and sell properly, and his great gang of lunatics, like, properly delivered. And I can't wait to see. Well, they're all working on those weird little download things now, aren't they? The UB art stuff.
I don't know who's working on what.
I think that's some of his gang. Anyway, well, either way, it's a brilliant game, which leads us on to...
See what you can cook up.
Number 2.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good. Fire Emblem Awakening. This is the game I most misscored this year. I gave it a 90, which was nowhere near enough. For me, it's on par with Animal Crossing as probably the best 3DS game of the year, I think. In terms of just how much it offers, it's one of the most complete and welcoming and yet still classically tough tactical RPGs ever made. It manages the kind of distinction between the really nitty-gritty tactical stuff, the feeling of having a load of units across a battlefield and having to get them across it in the right way without losing any of them, and the very real threat of actually losing someone forever if you're playing properly, because it can be turned off, means that you have this. It gets the battlefield sense better than anything else because you are micromanaging literally one square of movement. You're like, do I move there because then that guy might get me, but he might be weaker than this other one who could get me in next turn, but I don't know. And the agonizing kind of, okay, I'm committing to putting him there, and then seeing whether it works or doesn't work. It has that micro sense. And then yet it manages to balance it with beautifully animated fight scenes and like quite an interesting, huge arcing storyline. And it really gets the sort of, I don't want to call it macro because then I become all economic. It gets that grand sense of a war and the people in it so right at the same time as the really nerdy stuff. And it's just wonderful. And some of the systems, the kind of buddy systems that turn into romance systems, and everything kind of arcs and flows through each other until you're sort of making tactics out of people's relationships, which feels a bit weird, but also really interesting because you're like, oh, I don't want them to fall in love because they don't work quite as well together as these two people, so I'm going to force them together. And you're like, this weird god in charge of all this stuff. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's such a nice... It's such a complete experience and long, and the DLC is mostly very good. There are bits where it's a bit flatter because you're playing as ghosts, which is a bit weird. But yeah, it's and occasionally really funny and occasionally really moving, and it just gets all this stuff in and it's in a tactical RPG. Who ever played a tactical RPG going, I'm going to feel loads of things?
Yeah, I must admit, I've only played about 5 or 6 hours of Fire Emblem, which is completely shameful because everyone I respect loves it. Not everyone I respect, but people whose views on games I respect. Yes. Are absolutely obsessed with it, and what I've played of it, I really loved. It's really sort of tight and beautiful. That's why it's not on my list, is because I'd feel like a bit of a fraud hopping on board the Fire Emblem bandwagon when I haven't properly done it.
But I think it's one of the few really huge hitter 3DS games, as well as it did, considering what it is. I think it's one of the few that a lot of people will have missed, and I can guarantee even those who aren't into their tactics and super nerdy micro stat management fun. I think people can still really get into it because of that grander stuff. You can turn it down to easy, you can turn off the permadeath, and you'll still have an amazing time. You won't be playing it right, but you will have an amazing time. Yeah, it's excellent. Like,
I think it's going to be my big Christmas game.
I think,
I've got this save file waiting, all these people waiting to get back on with their battling. But
and die.
Probably die.
It is excellent.
Yeah, I was always a big fan. I actually, I was quite fond of the one on Wii, even though it's not considered to be that great. The Path of Radiance, I think it was. I've always loved the idea of it. Yeah, this one definitely sort of the full package.
It's the first time I think Intelligent Systems have made a tactical RPG better than Advance Wars. Like, Advance Wars is so good, and Fire Emblem's always lagged behind that little bit more.
Yeah, I think part of it as well, though, it's almost like Nintendo went, make a killer Fire Emblem game, which sounds like an obvious thing that you'd say every time. They were like, no, seriously, like, do everything you want to do. Like, make it as packed with features. Make this like it is the last ever Fire Emblem. Like, really go out in a bang. And I think that was almost like the theme for a lot of their games this year. It was kind of like, I want the best Mario and Luigi RPG. I want the best Animal Crossing. The Teach team has delivered. And you almost think, well, that's kind of what you want for the Wii U now.
Yep.
You want them to come along. You've done that for Wii 3DS this year, and it's really got it, back on board, and it's kind of stabilised because of that. You almost want them to go next year. I want you to really nail these kind of console staples, and I really hope that's the case with Mario Kart and Smash Brothers and the like.
The things that hopefully will also be announced.
And the other things that'll be announced, the F-Zero and Star Fox, etc.
And I think Fire Emblem stands as testament to that, because it's such a left field thing to have come in and been like best ever, greatest hits package for Fire Emblem. It's unbelievable, some of it. It's
Looking
great.
forward to the Shin Megami Tensei crossover.
Sort of. I'm a bit confused about it. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
If they play it as a tactical RPG, I'm in. If they play it as Fire Emblem in first-person dungeon crawler, then I'm not as much.
I think it'll be.
So.
I think it'll be Fire Emblem in modern day.
Yeah.
With the Shin Megami guys.
I'm down for that because it'll be really weird as hell as well. Like Fire Emblem can get strange, and when mixed with Cyberpunk Demon battling, I'm in.
That is so strange.
Yeah.
That is like literally the most hardcore.
Oh yeah, it's
game
ridiculous.
idea ever.
Yeah, you just you get 2 tiny audiences and then cut loads of them out because you want one.
Short of doing like Fire Emblem times Shin Megami Tensei times Dwarf Fortress, I don't think you can make a more hardcore combo.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So my number 2 it's really boring and conventional, but it's A Link Between Worlds.
I still haven't played it.
Yeah. So again, we've talked so much about this, so I'll keep it a little brief. But I think again, it was almost like a pleasant surprise. I liked what I played earlier in the year, but when they kind of announced it was all kind of quick, and I thought, trading on Link to the Past, a bit of a nostalgia thing. It's a little bit cheap, to kind of do that in a way. It's almost Nintendo doesn't really make sequel, because at the time some people were calling it A Link to the Past 2, so Nintendo don't really do sequels like that, and it turns out it doesn't really matter. They've used a Hyrule that was already built, and it's almost like freed them up to do lots of other interesting stuff on top of that. It's almost like you don't have to worry about the reliability of the world, because it all works and it all connects and everyone likes it. Liked it back then, they'll probably like it now. So they can do things like they're doing the dungeons in any order and mixing up, which in itself isn't that exciting, being able to do the dungeons. But what is interesting is that it's asked them to change how they think about not just items in how you get them, but the individual item use, because they can't guarantee what you'll have. So as a result, they have to build a dungeon specific to like one item. So they can't go, in this dungeon you'll have the hook shot, the bombs, the boomerang, and the arrows. They can go, well, you might only have the hook shot, so let's build a dungeon only of hook shot puzzles. And in doing that, has resulted in brilliant puzzles that you haven't seen before, or really cool cool workarounds that you hadn't seen before. And I sometimes think you go into a Zelda dungeon, it's like, light the 2 torches, push the box onto the switch. These are things they invented in Ocarina and haven't really done anything more since. But actually, this one I thought had a lot of new puzzles in it. The height thing, really good. Yep. Really great logic puzzles. It's that slightly more logical thing. Reminded me a bit in a way of, even though it's nowhere near the same mechanic, but you had the Link and Zelda dungeons in Spirit Tracks were a bit more kind of mathematical and kind of like, this character's here, this character's there, how do they kind of relate to one another? And it kind of made me think about how does Link relate to the space of the room, and I really like that. Plus the music's great, and the
music's amazing.
It does have that big nostalgia rush thing to it, and it's so smooth and fast and just easy to play. Like it's a real kind of confection for Christmas. It's just like you play it, it's just so easy. It's so not easy difficulty, it's just so nice to play.
It just flows, doesn't it?
Yeah, like you don't ever come up against anything where you're like, that's not quite right. It's all right. It's all done right, you know, and that's really smart. And I think it showed the team thinking in quite a refreshing way, and it's got me. Not I wasn't excited for it before, but it's got me really excited for whatever they're doing on Wii U. Because I think Aonuma has sort of rattled a few kind of Zelda cages with this one. He needs to do a bit more, but it's showing that they're open to it, and that when they do it, the critical reception is like crazy. I mean, people love this game. I mean, they've gone mad for it. And Chandra says it's his favourite 3DS game of all time, which I don't think is quite right for me anyway. But I can't speak for him
because he's not here.
Yeah, but
let's speak for him anyway.
Yeah,
Chandra is wrong.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
No. It's great. Like it's this year's been a strong year for 3DS, and I think whatever takes your fancy, there's there's kind of a game for you, which you'll probably think is the best 3DS game, and Link Between Worlds I thought was a marvel. Loved it.
It's sort of interesting hearing Aonuma talk about it. Because most of my kind of experience with the game is coming from hearing you and Chandra and other people in the office playing it. And there's interesting kind of feeling from Aonuma that his involvement with it was very much in going through that built Hyrule and sort of traveling through it in his own kind of, in sort of a mental space. Like the way he talks about it, he's like, yeah, I just rebuilt it myself. And you kind of get this sense that he had what he loved, because he's talked before about how Link to the Past was the thing that made him who he is as a game designer. And you get this sense that it's like, it's the fans' take. It's this man who's just gone through it and knows this place so well, and he's just gone, here's where this needs to be, here's where this needs to be, and it's perfectly put together and flows so well because this man knows it. He loves this place. I think,
absolutely, and it is totally a celebration of that version of Hyrule, and I think that's particularly if you're attached to it, it's quite cool. Interestingly, and I know some people will be like heresy for saying it, but like I played Link to the Past again just before, and like I didn't think the game had aged like that well. Like or not necessarily that it really drew my attention to how sophisticated Zelda had become in 3D. Like the leap from a Link to the Past to Ocarina is crazy when you actually play it again and think about it. Like it's just come out recently again on Virtual Console. So if you play it and then play the two games side by side, you'll see actually like how their dungeon design in particular is so far beyond what it used to be.
So do you think Link Between Worlds draws more on the 3D games then?
In its like dungeon, in its thinking, in its like puzzle design, yes, absolutely. The top down, the kind of arcade speed of it is very much like that's completely Link to the Past. But Link to the Past dungeons were kind of really linear and not great. Like you go in and it was just like a room. There'd be like an interesting enemy and you beat him, and then a key would drop down, or there'd be a key in a pot. That isn't a puzzle. That's just a key in a pot. The puzzling, the most puzzling they got was having to drop through holes in the floor and like knowing that if I'm here, I'll drop down there. Most of the puzzles in Link to the Past are height based. There's very few about kind of altering elements of the dungeon or kind of mastering an item in an interesting way. It's really. I'm not saying it's overrated at all. It's a masterpiece and it's a really important game. But it is interesting actually to see it brought back into the light by this. And actually, if you go back to it, I think you might be surprised by. Like it did a lot of important stuff, but I think you'd be surprised at how sort of rigid or kind of old it feels.
It's sort of weird. I was toying with including the re-release of Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, because they really have that dungeon design thing down. Like it's sort of interesting that all these different iterations of Zelda and what they got right and what they didn't, and how they interact. It's kind of cool, like seeing how Link Between Worlds true to its name, sort of sits between all of these things and has little pieces of all of them. It's like it's very modern despite being a throwback.
It's interesting, actually, because when I played the Seasons games for the first time this year when we did the VC stuff, and I actually thought they held up remarkably well. Like I think I haven't played Link's Awakening recently, but I'd go as far as saying I think they're probably the best top-down dungeons. I'm not counting a Link Between Worlds in this because that's like a weird 3D hybrid. But of those older games, I think its dungeons are actually really good.
Made by Capcom.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Well, the team that made them though are now working on these ones. I'm pretty sure the guy who made Skyward Sword directed the Seasons games and things. So yeah, there's elements of that in there. But yeah, it's an interesting time to be a Zelda fan.
Yeah.
Because there's all these different things happening and they're mining all these different veins of history, and you're like, well, which of these is going to be the next Zelda? What
Hyrule Historia, the game.
What mood are we going to find the Zelda team in when it comes to the Wii U game? Like, there are so many different flavours of Zelda fan because there are so many different Zeldas, and I think this year's really drawn that out, and I think that's quite exciting.
I think that's going to be the thing with 2014 is the first snatches of the next Zelda and kind of finding out what it is that they're planning for us.
I hope it's not
so
guff.
Exciting. It's not going to be guff. It's going to be great.
It's got to be amazing now.
Well, I know what both our number ones are, I think. Do you reckon We got the same one, or have you got a weird
you think
wild
we got-
card?
Well, I'll tell you
You
what.
know what my number one's going to be.
Let's say it on a count of 3. We'll say it at
One,
the same
two, three,
time.
go, or 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, and then.
Yep.
Okay.
1,
2, 3.
The
Too
wonderful
fast for
101.
gnomes. Oh,
You.
No, it's the wonderful 101.
Oh, it's so good. Look at you. Giggling away.
Classic.
Poor
Sorry,
old-
I've got to go and cough because that's made me laugh.
Poor old Cubic Games. We're always talking about Too Fast for Gnomes. Matthew's dying.
Yeah, that was so hilarious. Yeah, the wonderful 101.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who'd have thunk it?
I would,
Yeah,
because I'm a horrible platinum nerd.
I loved it when I played it, and I sort of thought the rest of the year, it was before we'd reached like the other Nintendo big hitters, and I was waiting for something to kind of dislodge it in a way, and it never kind of did get
No.
dislodged.
I
It kind
remember-
of stuck up there.
That's the thing, and the Wonderful 101 again does that, similar to Castlevania actually, gets that pacing so right and does new things. You know, if you're with it and you're ready to take on what it offers, the way it paces its stuff is really interesting when you're playing simultaneously with someone else. Like I finished it before you did, so seeing you over a few nights get to certain areas and come in the next day and go like, oh, I did this, you know, I did the punch out boss fight, I did the section where you're flying the ship on the gamepad and on the screen, and then after the night you finished it, you just came in and went, oh right, yeah, I totally get where, you know, that was the point at which we were both like, yep, this is the game we think it is, because
Yeah.
the final 2-3 hours are just astounding,
Yeah,
like just like nothing else.
that last run of bosses, I think we can be a bit spoilery now, and if you've not sort of played them, you know, it's just these escalating kind of galaxy-sized battles, basically.
Yeah. Well, where suddenly the robots that you've been fighting on for the entire game, you're fighting with 100 of them against something the same size as those were,
Yeah,
or the same scale up,
yeah,
I should say.
Oh, it's insane, like insanely good. Like it just made me like laugh out loud, and I think more than anything, I'd never played anything like it before, and that happens very rarely these days. You know, games are in a place where kind of the cool indie side aside, you know, it's kind of like you sort of know what you're going to get from everyone. Like you'll get some interesting evolutions or mutations occasionally, but this was just like someone has gone off at complete right angle and cooked
it's just
up.
so wonderful.
It's for that reason I think it's almost quite difficult to sort of explain its sort of brilliance, you know, because it's just to boil it down to its kind of mechanical details is A, confusing, and B, quite boring, you know, because it's sort of like, you know, the idea of wielding 100 people as weapons and you know, using more people to build bigger weapons,
and
but
using
then that's
more
only
people to build other weapons at the same time as you build a different weapon,
and then that's only one small part of your general kind of arsenal of attacks. But I think the pace and the visual design of the battles, you know, the idea, you know, it's a world where fists are deflected by giant jellies and you chop things heads off with swords that are bigger than them, and you make giant whips that rip people's armor off. And it all kind of makes sense in its mad, deranged way.
Yeah.
It is wonky. Like,
oh yeah,
it's like it's rock hard in places and really confusing, and its controls will throw, you know, people who aren't that dedicated. But I've never felt like more rewarded for putting in the time and investing in something. And when I made it work, I never made that game. I still can't make that game sing in the way that you're meant to be able to. But the odd occasions where I come close, I'm just like, yes, I feel like a complete gaming god. I'm like, oh, this is, you know, it's like all those deaths in those super expert guides videos. I feel so much better about myself. I'm like, I'm not awful at games. You know, I can do this. And like, there's very few games which challenge you in that way and reward you just through the doing. You know,
I think I'm in a minority with this, but there's a sense to that game that the wonkiness of presentation, the way it so basically fails to explain its systems, to me, playing a lot of people talk about this when Dark Souls first came out. A lot of reviewers were like, that was the purest experience of learning a game I've ever had. I didn't have that with Dark Souls, like partly because Dark Souls scares me. But Wonderful 101, the discoveries you make as you go through were some of the best moments I had, and it was just like tooling about It was just trying things and pressing a button at a different time, and understanding the systems was almost as much of a game as the game itself. But the cool thing, like, again, harking back to Fire Emblem, I think part of Platinum's success here is this is the first time a Platinum game... I love Platinum. It's the first time I feel like what they've done is gone, we know how to make an incredibly mechanically complex and satisfying game. It's the step on from Bayonetta, perhaps a step back in certain aspects, but it's a step on in terms of how they've balanced that with pure presentation and just gone, underneath everything, there's this set of cogs that are whirring, and you've got to spin them at the right time. But on top of that, what it's powering is this like fireworks show of stuff. This amazing like Technicolor world full of weird people and creepy animals trying to kill you, and like just odd stuff happening all the time, and cities exploding, and just pure cartoon magic constantly. And they mesh them into this little kind of like inscrutable machine that you're trying to poke into and find out about the whole time. It's amazing. It's just so well thought out. Like, and to think that, you know, Kamiya has gone, I've got an idea, and then one idea, and then this has appeared. It's pure game design. It's this like huge, like growing onion freakish thing. It's great. It's so
it's
good.
just it's just one of the few games where like I think it just makes me smile when I think of like the mad moments and the things we've done in that game. Like when people talk about the Punch Out thing, you know, you have a boss where it basically becomes a mad game of Punch Out, but then as your fist kind of collides with something's face, that then becomes a bridge to walk into its face and have another fight inside its head. You know, and you're just like, what is happening? And you know, there are games, you know, I was talking about earlier with, you know, Mario 3D World not having it and Rayman having it, where you're like, oh, I love this idea, can they push it further? Well, Wonderful 101, you just have no idea what it's going to do next. So you don't ever go, oh, this idea wasn't fully explored enough. You're too busy going, oh, what's this thing? What's happening now?
By the same token, when it doesn't work, when you have like that weird digging, not platforming, the digging section, which isn't that good, you're like, well, it's going to be over in 10 minutes and I'll do something incredible. You know, like it just, the turnaround is just so snappy. It knows exactly when to just go, done, right, next thing.
And it has so much to tempt you to master it. It's not just going, you know, mastery for its own, you know, just for the satisfaction of it is there. But at the same time, you know, you have difficulty modes and these hard challenges and a proper achievement system. And it's the kind of nerdy stuff which, like, certain gamers love. You know, I love ticking things off. You know, I love kind of having a big checklist and working my way through it. And you know, that game tempts it. I just think it's a really full, brilliant experience. And, you know, see anyone kind of dismiss something, you know, you can't dismiss that and then moan about Nintendo not trying to bring you something new. I mean, they have literally brought you the maddest game of the year. Like, no one else will make that kind of thing or will invest that kind of money in it. You know, it's look at the games coming up on the next gen platforms. If you can show me anything where Microsoft and Sony are investing that heavily in something so balmy, you know, this is where today they announce, you know, some new Platinum game and I look stupid. But I genuinely think, you know, it's like what a risk. Maybe it didn't pay off sales-wise, unfortunately, but who cares?
Exactly.
Like,
it's
people
important.
love that game.
Like, this is the thing. In a year where Nintendo has beguiled so many people with all these games, like we talk about, you know, the best version of this, the best version of this, for them to also go, here's something you could not imagine ever have coming out before. That to me is the most important thing they've done this year, is the balance where they go, we're going to do all this stuff. Also, Platinum are going to make the weirdest game you've played for like 5 years. Like, okay, wicked. Like, it is an important sign of Nintendo's refusal to sit still and do what everyone wants them to do. But it shouldn't be down to importance. That's a bit.
No, absolutely
isn't
not.
it?
And the thing is, I also appreciate that. I know there are lots of people listening to this and who read the magazine who did struggle with the game. And, you know, Chandra himself is not crazy about it. You know, he's probably unfair that he's not here. Expound, he'd probably put a link between worlds, I imagine, his number one. And, you know, maybe Bayonetta 2 is going to find a more of a middle ground. You know, I imagine well, from what we've played, it's conventional as far as Platinum goes.
Yeah,
which
it's also
is
more conceivable.
yeah.
Despite being about a sort of immortal witch.
But I just love it, and I really want more stuff like that to happen. If Wii U can have something like that every year, with all the other staples and everything, I think it'll be absolutely fine.
We're sorted.
Yeah. What a game, though.
So
what a
good.
game. It's actually been, talking about this, how little crossover we've had.
Yeah.
And this isn't, we genuinely created our list separately. This isn't intended.
True that.
I think it's revealed, actually, it has been a pretty stonking year.
It's been incredible.
Weird pacing,
yeah,
all over the place.
Well, for Nintendo specifically. I mean, I really think this might have been one of the best years for games ever. Like, across all platforms, you think of some of the stuff we've had this year. Like, we don't get to talk about things like GTA 5 and, like...
The Last of Us.
BioShock
Infinite.
There's just some, like, things, and in the PC sphere, things like...
Rise.
Rise, absolutely. Endless elephants, that's what you want. Things like, PC games like Rogue Legacy and this weird vein of roguelikes that are appearing that I'm hoping will soon spread to us and eShop and things like... It's been an incredible year, and just to be at the center and have all these games on Nintendo platforms and go, well, we've got all the exclusive ones. You kind of go,
we've only got those.
Yeah, but yeah,
that's all we have. But that is all we have. That is what we have. Like, it is our thing.
That's a games collection.
Yeah,
that's almost 20 games of like, this is your solid, like, that's all you need for a year. Like, fantastic, so good.
Oh. What a year.
What a year.
What a year. I just think we'll be back here this time next year.
Going, number one's probably Donkey Kong, isn't it?
Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Man, I love that cranky.
No, it's going to be Bayonetta 2.
Yeah, probably. Do you
heard
think
it here first?
If Smash Brothers comes out next year, I think that's in for a swipe. But I don't know if it's going... I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
That isn't for our... maybe we'll do a speculation cast, a New Year cast when we come back.
That'd be quite nice.
Well, I want to do more of this stuff. I think throughout the year, I think these little one-off specials for those that want...
Have you got any honourable mentions? Because I wrote down a load of things that I wanted to include but couldn't.
Not massively.
Cloudberry Kingdom. Were you sad to leave that off? I was expecting to see it in there.
No, I really liked it, but it wasn't like Game of the Year territory ever. Like I kind of dabble with it after the fact. I played it a lot when I was reviewing it, but I haven't gone back to it massively. I must admit. I'll be honest. What else have you got on there?
Well, I've got like. Things like Attack of the Friday Monsters, I think, is just a really weird little thing that no one took any notice of.
That's very you, though. That's a very Scribbles game.
But it's just this beautiful little... But you like visual novels, and it's well into that territory. It's it's a man just talking about childhood, but through the medium of big monster fights. Like, it's great. And then, there's just little bits and pieces like the re-release of Devil Survivor. Again, this very me. But,
I see you've got some nonsense on
I've got some weird stuff.
Crash City Mayhem.
Crash City Mayhem was brilliant, but way too expensive. If it was like £2 or £3, games of the year, for sure. That's an incredible game about driving into skeletons. I'll tell you what, I looked over reviews I'd done. One of the kind of coolest little surprises, even though it's nowhere near games of the year, was that Naruto Powerful Shippuden game with, what's his name? Rock Lee. Just like a really satisfying little beat 'em up. And I just expect... I don't like Naruto. I don't care about it at all. But just to have a little game where you're like, oh, that's really just like crafted well. I want to see more of that stuff appearing on eShop. And it's not an eShop game, but I'd like to see that kind of thing popping up. Things, again, like that re-release of the Dungeons & Dragons arcade game. Yeah. Just little tweaks to it and like modern elements. Like, I love that kind of
it was
stuff.
fun. It was fun playing it. Well, yeah, actually, I guess two things we've both missed off. I was quite fond of Lego Batman 2.
Yeah.
And you were...
Lego Marvel.
You were very big into Lego Marvel. Good Lego. The thing about the Lego games is like they do 100% their thing.
Yep.
Like, that is it. But they keep inserting really interesting sort of series into them. Yeah. And they'll keep making them. I'm sure The Hobbit will be excellent.
Yeah. I don't like the Hobbit movies, but I'm interested in that game. Like, I think that could capture more of the book for me than Peter Jackson has managed. I'm sure Chandra would have put Lego City in there as well. Yeah. He loved that.
I did like Lego City. Yeah, like that's the thing. Though. There's been a lot of stuff, and it depends how broad your tastes are. And I can understand that if you've got a very specific kind of idea of what a game should be, like
Lego does not tick those boxes.
Yeah, and it's like I like military shooters. I like violent action games. I can see that you may look at this year's releases and go like, meh. But actually, I've played like a lot of games this year. Like I've played a lot of Nintendo games and not really felt that disappointed.
Oh no, it's been amazing.
Oh, what a year! What a year. I'm actually dreading next year now.
4 games.
Cool.
We're going to have some praise. But at this point, unless,
3DS has got some announcing to be done.
It does.
I hope.
At this point, we're not going to have big major differences in our lists next year.
But let's not end this on
a speculation
on a glum note. That's for the speculation cast coming 2014. For the time being, I think we're going to sign out there. That's been a hefty chunk of Game of the Year chat. Thank you very much for revealing your list.
Goodness.
Thank you for
inappropriate way to.
Thank you for sharing your choice.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully we'll do some more in the new year. Lots of exciting stuff coming up with the magazine and the website and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a really, really exciting 2014. We hope you're going to
know your lists. I want to know your lists. Like, not yours, as in the readers.
So all very exciting stuff. And we will see you again this time next year.
Yeah.
In this particular form.
In this one form.
But otherwise, we'll see you on a monthly basis on the ONM podcast. Thank you very much for listening.
Love you. Bye.